to continue with thinking more about poetry. The previous lessons, which we have been doing, we have been looking at literary techniques in poetry, and we looked at repetition, where words or phrases are deliberately repeated so as to bring them to attention of the reader. And then we looked at personification, whereby we said human qualities are given to an object or an animal. For example, the light of the moon softly tiptoed through my window. Then we also looked at similes, when someone is likened to something else and is introduced by like or as. For example, the moon was like a pale face. Then we looked at the metaphor, when something is likened to something else but does so dialectically without using like or as. For example, the moon is a pale face. So we go back to comparing poetry. We are now on page 102. If you look at page 102, you will see that there are poems there. We have 2 poems plus a picture of 3 little girls carrying something like a kite. Yes, a kite. Now, we have the poem, The Wind. Then we have the poem, The Whistling Wind. I'll read the poem, The Wind. The wind. Who has seen the wind? Neither I nor you. But when the leaves hang trembling, the wind is passing through. Who has seen the wind? Neither you nor I. But when the trees bow down their heads, the wind is passing by. By Christina Rossetti. Then we have The Whistling Wind. The wind whistles overhead, now loud, now low, sounding rather melancholy, rather foreboding. An old man totters past me, his hand holding on tightly on his thick cotton padded cap, while the wind goes on whistling. The wind whistles inside my ears, now strong, now weak, sounding rather solemn, rather wild. A child coming from school runs past me, laughing with delight. A handful of colored paper scraps at once dances through the air, while the wind goes on whistling. Suddenly, I feel an inexpressible joy. My black hair is ruffled in the wind, is singing in the wind, by Wang Xian. So here we have a glossary where we have words like melancholy means feeling of sadness, foreboding, feeling that something bad is going to happen. Now, from what we have learned, like we've learned similes, we have learned metaphors, we have learned personification. Let's look at personification, how the wind has been personified. So we'll start with the wind. The first poem by Christina Rossetti. Who has seen the wind? Neither I nor you. But when the leaves hang trembling, the wind is passing through. Who has seen the wind? Neither you nor I. But when the trees bow down their heads, the wind is passing by. Look, we have personification in the first poem. The personification which we see in the first poem is that the trees are bowing their heads. The trees have heads? No, they don't. So, by them bowing down, they are trying to show that the qualities of a person bows down their heads, isn't it? It has been given to the trees, bowing down their heads. The wind passing by. Passing by, it's a human-like quality. It's people who pass by, animals pass by, but especially people are the ones who pass by. So that is personification. Now, that is only personification. So, we also have the whistling wind. I want you to see personification. The wind whistles inside my ears, now strong, now weak, sounding rather solemn, rather wild. There, the wind has been given human-like qualities, the whistling. All right. Let's go to the other stanza. Stanza number 4. A child coming from home from school runs past me, laughing with delight. A handful of colored paper scraps at once dances through the air while the wind goes on whistling. Now, again, here you see that there is that aspect of personification. The wind goes on whistling. It's a person who whistles. The wind does not whistle. All right. So that is on personification on the 2. So we should also go, let's go to page 103. Page 103. On page 103, the language of poetry. Talk to partners. Read 2 poems on page 102. Both poems are about the wind. Some features are the same, but others are very different. The exploration of differences and similarities of text is called comparison. Working with a partner, write down your answers to these questions. Which poem is shorter? Which poem describes the sound of the wind? Which poem questions who sees the wind? What effect does the wind have on the poet at the end of the whistling wind? E. Both poems describe the effects of the wind, either on the landscape or people. Find an example of the effects of the wind in the wind and the whistling wind. Now, what you're going to do here is you are going to talk with your partners, all right? You're going to talk with your partners. What you will do is you select a partner. You are going to contact that partner using WhatsApp, all right? You text, you describe, you discuss the answers. Then you send them through, okay? So that is that on the comparing poetry. So we had the whistling wind and the wind. Those were the poems which we were discussing. Having said that, thank you very much, and please do the work.